In this lecture, we are going to discuss the properties of the compound, what the formation of the compound, how can we separate different elements in a compound, and how can we name the compounds, like the chemical formula, what are the rules to write down the chemical formula for compounds. So let's start from the formation of a compound. If you have listened to my previous video, I have explained in a very detailed way that how the compounds are formed. I'm going to just give a little introduction or a little connection of today's topic to my previous topic so that it's easy for you to understand this video. Compounds are formed from the different atoms of the different elements which are chemically combined together in a fixed ratio by mass. Chemically combined together means a chemical reaction must occur for the formation of a compound. So when the compound has formed, then a chemical reaction, as a result of a chemical reaction, the compound is formed. So it is not easy for a compound to get split into its element by a physical method. It means we need a chemical method. Chemical method means electrolysis or heat, to decompose or to split the compound into its constituent elements. So once the element combined together by a chemical method, we are going to see that how the properties of the compounds vary. This is all I have already explained in my previous video, so you can watch that video to just understand those slides. So how the properties of the compounds are changed when the elements chemically mix together. When the elements, are chemically mixed together, then what happens? As a result, a compound is formed. That compound is having completely different properties than the constituent elements. I have already explained that in the formation of water or any other compound like sodium chloride, here I'll quote just two examples, that in the formation of these two compounds, the chemical reaction has occurred. So if you look at the state of sodium, that is solid, and chlorine is in the gaseous form. So when they both will react, solid sodium chloride is formed. That means that chemical reaction has occurred and a completely new substance is formed. So that substance is called as a compound. Same happens with the water production, that hydrogen gas and oxygen gas react together to give us water, which is in the liquid state. So what does it say? I am formed by atoms of the different elements. However, I do not have the properties as them. So it means chemically the compound is different from the elements from which it is made. The second point which I have already discussed is to separate the compound into its constituent elements. What are the methods? Those are the chemical methods. What are the chemical methods? Those are electrolysis and thermal decomposition. By doing electrolysis and thermal decomposition, we are actually breaking the chemical bonds which are holding those elements together. So after the bond breaking, what happens? Those elements get separated. So compound is split or separated into its constituent element by the chemical method. And those chemical methods are electrolysis and thermal decomposition. You need to watch my videos of electrolysis where I'm explaining the electrolysis of the ionic compounds in the molten and the aqueous form so that we can separate the metals from their compound. So that can be, you can just easily understand from those videos. So what are the rules to name the compounds? The rules are, the first rule is the general rule I'll talk about. The first rule is you must know the type of the element which is present in a compound. And the second thing, the number of atoms of that element which are included in the compound. So to write down the type of the element, you must memorize the symbols of the element. In my previous video, we have seen some symbols of the element, so I'm not going to go into that. I'll just discuss the three rules to write down the names of the compound according to the GCSE syllabus. So the first rule is, we are writing the name of the metal first and then the non-metal. And in naming that, the compounds which are having halides or oxides, their names are ending as IDE, ide. Few examples you can see on the slide. and few more I'm going to quote for your understanding and for the further practice. So on the slide you see that sodium chloride, which is made up of sodium metal and a halide, chlorine. So the name will be written as sodium chloride, as we call halide ions as chloride, fluoride, bromide, iodide, astatide. So you need to memorize that. First rule is that ide is ended to the end of the name of the compound containing halides or oxides, like zinc oxide, magnesium oxide. If zinc is reacting with oxygen, then the name is zinc oxide. If magnesium is reacting with oxygen, then the name will be magnesium oxide. And similarly, you can add more and more examples to it. And if we are having carbon, which is being oxidized with oxygen, and if it's one oxygen which is oxidizing carbon in a limited supply, if it is undergoing combustion, then it is carbon monoxide. And if there are two oxygen, like it's excess amount of oxygen is given for the combustion of the carbon or fuel, then carbon dioxide is formed. But the rule remains same, that the name is ending with the ide word, IDE, ide. So sodium chloride, sodium fluoride, sodium bromide, zinc chloride, zinc iodide, magnesium oxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. So you can go on with so many examples when you understand and memorize this rule. So the first rule to memorize is to add the name ide at the end of the name of the compound. Now let's go to the second rule, hydroxide. If the anion hydroxide, which is OH negative, is added to the is a part of the compound, ionic compound, then the name will end as the word hydroxide. So the first element remains the same, which is metal, as I have already told you, and the second anion, if it is hydroxide, OH negative, as you see here, the symbol on the cursor is, then what happens? The name becomes hydroxide. So you are naming that compound as metal name potassium hydroxide, any other sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, and lithium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. So this is the second rule, that adding the name hydroxide to the name of the as an anion, if anion is OH negative, so the name will become any metal name, and then hydroxide is at the end. What is the third rule? Third rule is adding 8. If the negatively charged ion is containing oxygen, like if the negatively charged ion is a polyatomic ion containing oxygen, then the name is ending as 8, like sulfate, nitrate, chlorate. So 8 is going to be the ending name of that compound. Like the first element stays metal, like copper, sodium, calcium, magnesium, lithium, and any other metal. There are so many metals in the periodic table. So you can name any metal along with, if it is sulfate, SO4 -2 ion, then it is sulfate. If it is NO3 -1 ion, that as an anion attached to the cation, which is a metal, then the name will become sodium nitrate. If it is a nitrate anion attached to the metal, then it is nitrate, sodium nitrate, potassium nitrate, barium nitrate, copper nitrate, sodium sulfate. If it is SO4 -2, then it is sulfate, and chlorate, and so on. So these were the rules, and I have already discussed the properties in my previous videos about the compound, and I have given a brief description in this. Let's go back to the first slide and review the whole lecture. In this lecture, we discussed how the compounds are formed, how the elements from the compound can be separated, what are the chemical methods, what are the properties of the compound, how are they similar or different from the elements from which they are made, and finally we talked about the rules to name the compounds. So I hope this is going to help you. I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye.